Are you comfortable with the country potentially dipping into a recession for a period of time?
So President Trump sat down for an interview with Meet the Press. We have a preview of that. And mainstream media is already trying to manipulate what he said. And then we have Harvard, who is scrambling after President Trump's latest threat. And AOC was heckled at her town hall.
Some people on Wall Street have expressed concerns that the possibility of a recession is increasing. And I want to know what you think about that. Are you comfortable with the country potentially dipping into a recession for a period of time if you are able to achieve your long-term goals?
Well, you know, you say some people on Wall Street say, well, I like to tell you something else. Some people on Wall Street say that we're going to have the greatest economy in history. Why don't you talk about them? Because some people on Wall Street say this is the greatest thing that ever happened.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at, though. It's the same question.
Yeah, there are many people on Wall Street say this is going to be the greatest windfall ever happened.
And that's my question.
Remember
the
this.
long term.
Yeah.
Is it okay in the short term to have a recession?
This. Look, everything's okay. What we are, I said, this is a transition period. I think we're going to do fantastically.
That's President Trump sitting down with Kristen Welker, the host of Meet the Press. That interview will air this Sunday. I'm just going to give you a fair warning. The media is already going to spin this clip alone. We haven't even gotten to the full interview. They're already framing this as President Trump is okay if America slips into a recession. And because the clip was cut short, obviously we don't know what he said right after that. And we also don't know if she followed up with him to confirm if that's what he meant. But again, that doesn't stop the media from running their stories. And the reality is that it was just 2 weeks ago where the media was claiming it was all doom and gloom. And now the media is saying this.
So let's bring back News Nation's Alicia Nieves is reporting live from the floor at the New York Stock Exchange. And that's quite a headline below the two of us, that the stock market has erased all those losses we talked so much about since April the 2nd, Liberation Day. We're above that point now.
Yeah, I mean, for all of those people who have been worried about their 401ks, their pension plans over the last couple of weeks, this is really great news. It's a historic day for the S&P 500. You know, not only having a 9-day winning streak, the longest in about 2 decades, but to your point, worth repeating here, this is erasing the losses that we have seen since these tariffs are in place. Major averages across the board in positive territory, up more than 1%, closer to 1.5%.
Now, even though mainstream media has changed their tune in regards to the stock market, Hakeem Jeffries has not. He put out this statement earlier today. He said Donald Trump is crashing the economy and marching the country towards a recession. I'm not going to read anymore because it's the same old talking points. And the bottom line here is you have people focusing on the fears of a recession, even though it hasn't happened. And there's actually no legitimate indicators to say that it will happen. So a lot of this is like pure speculation. And almost they're looking to kind of speak it into existence. It's almost like Democrats want it to happen so that they can be proven right. And that's why Democrats continue to lose support from minority communities, okay? Now, this actually takes us to our next story because CNN interviewed 3 Trump voters that are black. And I actually want to speak on it. But let's first hear what they had to say.
You weren't always a Republican.
No. Actually, I come from a family that was like super Democratic. My first time voting, I voted Democrat. I voted for Joe Biden.
What about Trump appealed to you?
Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah, you can.
I mean, part of it is he's an asshole. I like authenticity.
You voted for Obama then you voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, but 2020 you voted for Donald Trump. What made the change?
I began listening to someone, her name is Candace Owens, and I read her book. And it just opened my eyes to maybe he's not this person that I have been led to believe that he was.
So you voted against Trump in 2016.
Yes.
But then in 2020 you voted for him?
Absolutely.
Why?
I saw how things were going during his first term, and I was pleasantly surprised, and I was pleased with what was happening. I saw the economy getting better. I saw country relations in certain countries getting better.
Now that is very interesting. But before I go any further, if you guys have been getting value from our channel and this video in particular, please like, share, and subscribe now. Also, if you want to support us further, just go to the link in the description below. You could donate to our channel by buying me a cup of coffee. And if you want to hear the audio version of this, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Now, my answer, if I was sitting there in front of Van Jones, would be authenticity, like the first gentleman said. I think that's one of Trump's greatest qualities. Even when he's wrong, he's authentic. I mean, he believes in everything that he is doing and saying. And the other thing that's helped people change their opinion of President Trump is not really anything that he's done differently. It's what the media has done differently. They have broken all their principles, all their values to target him. And as a result, they've actually turned people against him. Who trusts the media today?
What are some things that he's doing that you do like?
For me, I like the border. I just don't like the idea of someone coming here illegally and getting benefits that can serve my community. So that's the reason why I support him on that border policy.
When you think about the border, you think about people coming here who are getting more help than people who live here and who were born here.
Yeah. And I got that perspective not from news channels. I got it from social media. TikTok is like a holy grail. We even see it with the things that we learn about the United States government. Outside of the United States, people are showing Americans, hey, look at what's going on. Do y'all know that your government is doing this? Have you seen this? Have you looked at it from this perspective?
You know, people, when they think about a Trump voter, they usually think about like a white dude with like a red hat on and a pickup truck. And y'all are not that at all. So,
All right. Well, number one, I believe it's Democrats and progressives who initially think Trump voters are not black. And if they are black, there must be something wrong with them. Which brings me to point number two. You'd be shocked at how much backlash black people get for supporting Trump within their own community. I can tell you how many DMs I receive calling me all sorts of names and claiming my wife, she has to be white since I support Trump. That's a classic one. And number three, it's not about President Trump or really somebody's skin color. It's about the American people. They're fed up with Washington, D.C. and mainstream media. They don't trust any of them. They want a disruptor. They want an outsider. They want a different way of doing things. And that's what President Trump represents. And this takes us to our next story, where President Trump has put Harvard on notice again by saying that he's after their tax-exempt status. Take a listen.
That Donald Trump is intensifying his threats to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status for the university's refusal to cave to his demands. It's a retaliation which would be illegal. This morning, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social this, quote, "We are going to be taking away Harvard's tax-exempt status. It's what they deserve!" Exclamation point. Harvard is gearing up to continue its legal battle against Trump's attempts to get them to cede their academic independence. The New York Times is reporting that Harvard has hired a squad of conservative super lawyers with ties to the U.S. Supreme Court in anticipation that its fight could end up all the way there in the nation's highest court. It's a fight that Harvard's campus appears to be unifying behind. NBC Boston is reporting that Harvard's faculty members have pledged 10% of their salaries towards combating the administration's takeover attempts of it.
But what are the facts here? Has this been done before? Yes, it has. Is it illegal? No, it's not. Is Harvard guilty of some of the things that President Trump is accusing them of doing? Absolutely they are. Now, from people on the right, I'm sure you would agree with this following statement. Trump's not trying to censor Harvard. He's actually demanding accountability. And if you want special tax treatment, you better act like a public institution, not a woke cartel that protects anti-Semitism, crushes free speech, and then demands taxpayer subsidies. Now, obviously, people on the left would absolutely disagree with that entire statement. But one thing that they cannot disagree with is that anti-Semitism has been on the rise on that campus, and Harvard has yet to prove that they have it under control.
The president of Harvard is responding to President Trump's announcement, seen here, that they will be taking away Harvard's tax-exempt status. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Alan Garber says this could pose an existential threat.
If the government goes through with a plan to revoke our tax-exempt status, it would, number one, be highly illegal unless there is some reasoning that we have not been exposed to that would justify this dramatic move. But tax-exempt status is granted to educational institutions to enable them to successfully carry out their mission of education and for research universities of research. Obviously, that would be severely impaired if we were to lose our tax-exempt status. And I should add, it would be destructive to Harvard, but the message that it sends to the educational community would be a very dire one, which suggests that political disagreements could be used as a basis to pose what might be an existential threat to so many educational institutions.
Okay, so the existential threat comment. We heard that a million times leading up to the election. And I'm going to push back here and say that the true existential threat to our country at this point in time would be academia. I'm just saying if he wants to use that logic, it would be academia because we already know they're poisoning the minds of young adults. That's why most of them are leaning towards progressive ideals. We know progressive ideals are destructive to our country. And so I think that maybe he should focus on the culture of Harvard and getting back to the principles that makes this country great instead of radicalizing your students and getting them to a point mentally and emotionally where they hate this country.
I mean, there is some precedent for this. I think it was a 1983 case where Bob Jones University had their IRS their tax exempt status taken from the IRS because of discriminatory practices. I think we remember that they banned interracial dating. And they got rid of that practice and they were able to get their tax exempt status again. But that was a legal battle that went through the courts. They went through the process. It was not a case where they were shaken down. They were given a list of demands and they had to follow those demands. Otherwise, that they would lose their status.
So needless to say, this is a fight that President Trump wants to have. He's not doing anything illegal here because at the end of the day, this will play out in court. And so when Democrats come out and, use extreme language like, the president is lawless, MSDNC, what their whole title of Trump's 100 Days, Law and Disorder, all of that is hyperbole, partisan politics. That's not actually helping anybody. It's not educating anybody. And it's just, in my opinion, further dividing the country. And to show you an example of that, here is CNN doing exactly what I just said.
The theory of the case is this. He does not like independence. Anything that takes away from his center of power, he is trying to challenge and destroy. And that is Harvard, that is PBS and NPR, and that is other institutions as well. And this you see over and over and over with him. That is the through thread. I'm not denying that there's a crisis of confidence in institutions writ large in this country, all of them, left and right, center. But that's not really what he's up to. He's not trying to redress that. He's not trying to say, hey, Harvard, be more open to the people. He's actually threatening their very independence. He's taking away money from them for the things that they do, such as research.
Yeah, so people like her are betting on the idea that you won't do your own research. So I'm going to tell you the other side to this. It was under Joe Biden that the Department of Justice targeted pro-life Catholics. It was under Joe Biden that the IRS and the SEC targeted Elon Musk. It was under Joe Biden that President Trump, a former president at the time, was indicted, not once, but 3 times. It was under Joe Biden where he threatened to pull funding from schools that did not support transgender policies. And this is the big one, folks. It was under Joe Biden that pushed to revoke the tax-exempt status of Christian colleges who did not want to comply with LGBTQ mandates. But it's all good when President Biden did it. But now President Trump is doing it, all hell's breaking loose. And so I just find it to be really interesting. Now, in our next story, AOC hosted a town hall where all hell did break loose. You had these pro-Palestinian and climate activists show up, and they wanted to give her a piece of their mind. Take a listen.
Very hard to defend.
So I guess she's getting a taste of her own medicine because this is an individual who actually encourages people to go to the Republican town halls and cause chaos. Now, the reason why this town hall is actually happening, by the way, is because she wants to continue to advise illegal aliens on how to evade being deported by the Trump administration. Now, that sounds like I'm being biased, but when you really look at all the facts, that's exactly what she's doing. Let me show you an example of that.
The Trump administration, they like to say, and this is what Trump ran on, right? He said, we're only going to go after the quote unquote criminals. Yeah, exactly. We're only going to go after the quote unquote criminals. However, their position is that everyone undocumented is a criminal. That's what they think. They think that the DACA recipient that the baby that was here from 2 years old, whose only country they have ever known is the United States, that maybe have served in this country or now is a doctor, is a quote unquote criminal. So this is not about anti quote unquote illegal immigration. This is anti-immigration.
So if President Trump is anti-immigration, according to her words, then that would make her anti-American. I'm just using her logic against her, obviously. Now, let's get to the matter at hand, and the claim she's making is that President Trump believes that all illegal aliens are criminals. According to the U.S. Constitution, they all committed a crime. So why would they get special treatment over people who did not commit a crime and entered the country legally? Why should they get special treatment? Why should we just say, you know what, screw it. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, because we're talking at least 10 million plus. And we've seen the polls from Americans. They're not buying it. They want the people deported. And she did make time to send a special message to Tom Homan. Take a listen.
When we first did one of these seminars, Tom Homan, then acting director of ICE, said that he was going to threaten to refer me to the DOJ because I'm using my free speech rights in order to advise people of their constitutionally guaranteed protections, and he may want to do it again today. And to that I say, come for me.
Yeah, so Tom Homan, he clearly isn't going to arrest AOC. That would be up to Pam Bondi. That's number one. But number two, it's not about threatening people like AOC. It's about the fact that elected officials, which we now have legitimate proof in the form of 2 judges, are literally helping illegal aliens evade ICE arrest. So Republicans do have a leg to stand on here. The American people definitely have a leg to stand on, given the malpractice from the last president who allowed the border to, pretty much be a free-for-all. But you've got people like her trying to protect illegal aliens. I just find the hypocrisy to be rich. That's my personal opinion. Now, let me get your opinion in the comment section below. What do you think about her town hall getting heckled? I thought that was entertaining. It's politics, of course. Also, what do you think about President Trump continuing to remind Harvard that he plans to revoke their tax-exempt status? And why don't you share your reasoning for why you support Trump in the comment section below. Now, President Trump intends to end NPR and PBS as we know it. This is why he came out and issued an executive order to defund both of these organizations. Well, obviously, that was met with a lot of backlash. And so if you missed out on that story and more from earlier today, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.